First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the 14th chapter. Again, one preparing himself to sail and about to pass through the raging waves calleth upon a piece of wood more rotten than the vessel that carrieth him. And that's going into the you have some that in preparation to sail, right, to embark on some voyage, they call upon a piece of wood, right, an idol that's more rotten than the actual vessel, the ship that is carrying them. For verily desire of gain devised that or devised that, and the workman built it by his skill. Desire of gain meaning for money, somebody made that idol, and the workman built it by his skill, right? Those that are skilled at crafting and carving, right, they built that idol. But thy providence, O Father, governeth it, for thou hast made a way in the sea and a safe path in the waves. So the passage, right, is through the providence of the Lord. And let's go into the word providence. It says the protective care of God, or of natural, or slakia, or of nature, as a spiritual power. See, so it's really through the protective care of the Lord that governs the ship that is on the water. As it says, for thou hast made a way in the sea, a safe path in the waves for the ship to travel through, shewing that thou canst save from all danger. Yea, though a man went to sea without art, meaning somebody can go to ship or go to sea without being a navigator, like a great navigator, right, or some skillful pirate, or somebody that is used to being on the sea. Nevertheless, they can still be delivered, right? Nevertheless, thou wouldest not that the works of thy wisdom should be idle. So to show forth the works of the Lord's wisdom, and therefore do men commit their lives to a small piece of wood, and passing the rough sea in a weak vessel are saved. So to show forth the Lord's wisdom, you have a demonstration where somebody or men can get on this rough, dangerous sea in this small, tiny piece of wood, but putting it together through wisdom, they can fasten it in a way where they are protected and they're delivered on this dangerous, rough sea. If you really think about it, when you're on a ship, on a carnal level, the only thing keeping you from drowning is being on that ship, right? And it's just wood. This is some, it's literally people chop down trees, right? If you go to the most primitive version, and they built it from these materials. But it takes wisdom to be able to put together all these different parts in such a way that it can protect you and deliver you in this body of water, in this dangerous body of water. For in the old time also, when the proud giants perished, and this is referring to the time before the flood, right, where you had the sons of God, right, and the other nations prior to the Lord flooding the whole world. That's what it's referring to when it mentions the proud giants perished. The hope of the world governed by thy hand. So who was the hope of the world? Noah, because had he died, that would have been it for us. But he was governed by thy hand, escaped in a weak vessel, which compared to the whole vast ocean, that ark, which was big, but compared to the actual ocean, would be likened unto a weak, small vessel. And left to all ages a seed of generation. So in order to be, as the Lord preserved Noah, he was able to leave his seed that eventually all generations would come from through his sons, right? Ham, Shem, and Japheth. For blessed is the wood whereby righteousness cometh. Okay, and that is that ark that preserved the righteous in it. But that which is made with hands is cursed. See, so the ark that was built, was done for a righteous thing. So that was good. But as he says here, but that which is made with hands is cursed, going back to the idols, as well it as he that made it. He, because he made it, and it, because being corruptible, it was called God. So because he made the idol, he is cursed. And because the idol received the glory of being called a god, even though it's not, it is cursed. For the ungodly and his ungodliness are both alike hateful to God. So the ungodly, which is the one that makes the idol and the one that worships the idol, and his ungodliness, which is the idol itself, are both hated by the Lord. For that which is made shall be punished together with him that made it. So the idol will be destroyed along with the one who made it. Therefore, it says, therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation. See, so there are different idols that they bow down to. The Lord is going to visit them, as in destroy them. Because in the creature of God, they are become an abomination and stumbling blocks to the souls of men. Because what do? They look at images, or they create images based on the creation of the Lord, right? They've taken birds and fish, right, and beasts and man, and made them like onto an abomination or a stumbling block by idolizing them. It says, and a snare to the feet of the unwise. So it's like a trap to those that are unwise that fall for it. For the devising of idols, right, the creating of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication. Fornication is like on a base level, unlawful, sexual activity, right, on a carnal level. Mainly you think of like adultery. Spiritual fornication is likened onto spiritual adultery, where instead of worshiping the one God, which is the Most High, you step out on him by worshiping an idol that you're attributing the trait of a God to. And the invention of them, the corruption of life. See, so through that introduction of idolatry, you had corruption that greatly polluted the world. For neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever. So idols weren't, that wasn't a thing. The Lord didn't ordain to us to create and worship idols from the beginning. And they're not going to be there forever. There's going to come a time, we read up above, the visitation upon the idols of the Gentiles, where the Lord is going to destroy all the idols of this world. And the world is going to know and acknowledge that there is only one true living God. For by the vain glory of men they entered into the world, and therefore shall they come shortly to an end. So by the vain glory of men, they created these idols, right, and worshiped them, and idolatry was introduced into the world. But shortly, that's going to be put to an end. For a father afflicted with untimely mourning, when he hath made an image of his child, soon taken away, now honored him as a god. So here he's going into like this instance, the story here of, a father who idolized his child so much so that he fell into the trap of idolatry. So his child that he lost, basically his child died young, or too soon, as you would say. It says, when he hath made an image, an idol of his child that died quickly, now honoreth him as a god. So he honors that child of his like a god. And people do that, right? People do that today. They'll lose a loved one, right? Their grandma or somebody that they loved. And all of a sudden they start living as though, oh, I know I'm safe because my grandma's watching over me. Your grandma can't do nothing for you from the spirit world. All she can do is pray to the Lord. Okay? She's not, if something bad, some people, oh, I'm so, something almost happened to me, but I know my grandma was watching over me, so I was good. No, that was the Most High. Okay? So if you're not careful, you end up idolizing that dead loved one. Like, oh, because, I know I'm good, and then you start praying to them inadvertently. You about to go on a trip. Oh, grandma, watch over me, protect me. What you mean? Now you got your grandma looking crazy in the heavens. You got the Lord looking at her, the angels looking at her. What's she talking about? Protect me. What, you gonna go down there and protect her? Oh no, Lord, you know how she is. She always been low, missing a couple screws up there, right? But your grandma is not the one who's protecting you. It's the Most High. Okay. So it says here, now honored him as a god, which was then a dead man, and delivered to those that were under his ceremonies, Slakia, were under him ceremonies and sacrifices, right? So here he loses his son, he loses his child, he creates an idol out of him, which was one that is dead, worships him as a god. If he was a god, he wouldn't have died. And then basically commits those ceremonies and sacrifices that are to be given to his son, who he is now deified. And you see the Romans did that a lot as well. But his son that he is now deified, and those that are under him basically have to follow this this new way of idolatry. Thus, in process of time, an ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law, and graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings. So through this introduction of idolatry, that custom, that ungodly custom, became strong, as it says here, and was kept as a law. And graven images were worshipped by the commandment of kings. So they would idolize either themselves or deify a loved one. Like, once again, the Romans did that a lot. And then they would, since they were rulers, they would make it like what Nebuchadnezzar tried to do. When he created that idol, and he said, when you hear the sound of these different instruments, everybody has to bow to it. And the three holy children refused. With whom men could not honor in presence, or Slakia, whom men could not honor in presence because they dwelt far off, they took the counterfeit of his visage from far. The counterfeit of his visage, meaning like an image, right, of his visage, of how he looked from afar, because they couldn't honor this king or this ruler because they weren't near the person. So given an image of them, they take that from, and being far from this person, and made an express image, an idol of a king whom they honored. So a king who they honored and they revered, because they weren't in his presence, they made an idol of him, to the end that by their forwardness they might flatter him that was absent. So this is to basically flatter this king in like, it's like when they build a statue of somebody, and then they honor that statue, and the person is not really there, but it's built there. And Herod did that, to honor the Caesars. It says here that they might flatter him that was absent as if he were present. Also, the singular diligence of the artificer did help to set forward the ignorant to more superstition. Why? By building or creating the actual idol. So by his diligent work to make this idol look exactly how they wanted, he helped forward that ignorant, idolatrous superstition. For he, peradventure, willing to please one in authority, forced all his skill to make the resemblance of the best fashion. So in order to please this king or this one in authority, he used his skill of being an artificer to make this image, to look just like the image of whoever it is they're trying to deify here. Verse 20, and so the multitude, allured by the grace of the work, took him now for a god, which a little before was but honored. See, so this king who was honored just as a regular king is now being revered as a god through this idol, by idolizing him, right? Making these images of him because he's not near, and worshiping that and bowing to that. And this was an occasion to deceive the world. For men serving either calamity or tyranny did ascribe unto stones and stocks the incommunicable name. So the incommunicable name is the glory of the Father, right? Of the being like the creator, the deity of all deities. And they attributed that to stones and stocks. And that was the deception of the world. So now you had all over, people worshiping idols and giving the glory of the Father of the Most High to these idols. And the Lord hates that. Moreover, this was not enough for them, that they erred in the knowledge of God. But whereas they lived in the great war of ignorance, those so great plagues called they peace. So, as it says here, it wasn't enough to them. It wasn't enough for them that they erred concerning the knowledge of the Lord, since they were worshiping idols. But whereas they lived in the great war of ignorance, so they didn't even realize that they were in this battle of ignorance, so much so that they called those plagues that they suffered peace, thinking that it was due to this state of that they're in. The Apostle Paul mentioned, right, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. For whilst they slew their children in sacrifices, child sacrifices, or used secret ceremonies, which are rituals, or made revelings of strange rites. The revelings or revilings of strange rites are immoral religious festivities, right, or festivals. Verse 24, they kept neither lives nor marriages any longer undefiled. See, so the life the Lord created for man to live, which was undefiled, marriages that were supposed to be sacred, they no longer kept them undefiled. They started to defile them through these secret arts or secret ceremonies, through these revelings and these strange rituals. But either one slew another traitorously or treacherously, or grieved him by adultery. So now you had the increase of murders, slaying, sacrificing, and committing adultery. That's defiling marriage and defiling the lives. So that there reigned in all men, without exception, blood, manslaughter, theft. So you see how the introduction of idols, the devising of idols, introduced all of this? Now you had people committing, as it says, murder, right? Manslaughter, theft, dissimulation, corruption, unfaithfulness, right? Adultery, tumults, perjury, lying under oath, disquieting of good men, troubling, good men, forgetfulness of good turns. Forgetfulness of good turns is going into like somebody, doing good to you, you repaying it with evil, forgetting the good that they've done for you. Defiling of souls, changing of kind. And the changing of kind is a reversal or corruption of the natural order or the natural use of things. Paul mentioned that. Leaving the natural use, men leaving the natural use of a woman, burning in their lust one to another. Okay? Disorder in marriages, right? Adultery and shameless uncleanness. For the worshiping of idols, not to be named, is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. So the worshiping of idols, that's why it's the first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Because when you follow the Lord and he is your one and only God, you will do what he says. When you have other gods, you will do what they say. And when you do what they say, which is contrary to what the Lord says, you're introducing wickedness. Okay? So the worshiping of idols, not to be named, is the beginning and the cause, and it will be the end of all evil. Because it brought in evil, it is the cause for evil, but it will also be the means or the cause for the final judgment that will put away all evil. For either they are mad when they be merry, or prophesy lies, or live unjustly, right? Mad meaning they act, like in a crazed fashion once they're merry or when they're drunk or under the influence, okay? Or they prophesy lies, or live unjustly, or else lightly forswear themselves, okay? And when you forswear yourself, you just like you take an oath lightly and you don't keep it and you break it. For in so much as their trust is in idols, which have no life, though they swear falsely, yet they look not to be hurt. Why? Because they trust these idols that are not alive. So they know that if they swear falsely by this idol, there's no harm that's going to come to them in their minds. The idol, if it falls down, it can't even get back up. How is it going to bring judgment upon you for swearing falsely by it? However, right, howbeit, for both causes shall they be justly punished, both because they thought not well of God, so they're going to be punished for that, giving heed unto idols, and also unjustly swore in deceit, despising holiness. See, so in unjustly swearing in deceit, even though they may have thought, well, those idols can't do anything to them, they despised holiness, because to take an oath or to swear is a holy thing, you know. So when you swear and you break that, you start to violate that. You start to defile the act of, you know, swearing or taking an oath. And sometimes that is necessary, right, to take an oath. So they will still be judged for that. For it is not the power of them by whom they swear, that is those idols, but it is the just vengeance of sinners that punisheth always the offense of the ungodly. So it is not by the power of those idols that these people forswear or take oaths falsely that they're going to be judged, but is rather the vengeance that is rightfully deserving to or of these sinners. That is the reason why they're going to be punished, or that is what punishes their offenses. And that brings us to the end of the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the 14th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.